Sharkie Gamer here. So today we're taking a look at a pretty rare controller, and it's for a fairly old system as well. So the model number is CZ-8NJ2, and it's called the Cyber Stick. Now this is for the Sharp X68000 system, which is sort of like an old PC style system. Now the controller itself is sort of like a mission stick style controller, so almost you could call it an early HOTAS system. If you don't know what HOTAS is, it's hand on throttle and stick. So it's a term used to describe flight controllers that have some sort of throttle system and maybe a joystick. So you have one hand that holds the throttle and then one hand that has a joystick with the fire button or whatever. So that's what it sort of reminds me of anyway. So in front of me here, this is the box. You can see it's pretty plain because this is a pretty old and very rare controller actually. So the front of the box is just kind of a plain blue with some patterns on it. It's got the Sharp logo, it says the model number and of course Cyber Stick. And down the bottom it's got a sort of a profile pic of what the controller looks like. On the top it's pretty plain, it just has the model number again and bits and pieces in Japanese. On the side it says Sharp again, and it's got Cyber Stick and the model number again. And on the back is exactly the same as the front. So let's open this up and we'll take a closer look. So first thing you're greeted with is the manual. So I'll take a quick look at that. So that's the front of it. Going into it, it's got some information in Japanese. Shows you some of the features, buttons, commands, everything like that. More so there. Again, going into more details. And this controller has got a lot of features, and I kind of wish I could read this. I may have to use a program and scan this in and try to translate it down the line. The scanners don't tend to do really good scans of Japanese characters, so it's kind of hard. But it's got a lot of the information here about all the different functions and how you use the different functions, which would actually be pretty handy to have. So it has a lot of useful information. And of course, that's if you can read Japanese. So that was the manual. So just bear with me for a couple of moments, guys, while I just pull this out of its box. It's quite a large controller. Okay, so here it is. So straight away you can see why I called it like an early HOTAS system. It's got a throttle and it's got a joystick. So it's quite large, especially considering how old it is. You can see there, it's got quite a large profile on it. Side view. On the bottom you got some cool kind of grips so it doesn't move around. And it's a very heavy controller, so it's not going to shift really easily, which is a good thing. Moving on to the first connection part of it. Now this is basically for the Sharp system, which is the X68000. But you notice it's attached to this little card almost, and it looks like it can be pulled out. And that's correct, it can be. You basically slide this, squeeze that, and pull it out. And this is what they call an interface card. Basically, the way they designed these was that you could buy extra interface cards and have this controller work on different systems. So for instance, you could buy an interface card for the PC Engine, which would allow this controller to work on the PC Engine with PC Engine games. So it's quite a nifty idea, and it allows for more compatibility. Although I don't know if they were sold separately or how you actually got a hold of the different interface cards. This controller is so rare, you rarely see this controller, never mind the interface cards. But there were other ones designed for different systems. Now there's also a unique thing at the back here, which I don't know too much about, but it's actually different channels, and there's also a reset button. Now I'm assuming this is where you can actually plug additional things into it, or manually configure the adjustments of the inside components, if you know what you're doing. It has that kind of extra kind of a feature where you can adjust it. I would say you would need a special tool as well for that. But that's what I think that is anyway. If I could read the manual it may help, but it's very hard to read Japanese if you can't read Japanese. So, yeah. Alright, moving on. So So, like I mentioned before, your main component is your throttle and your joystick. So your throttle works just like you would expect a throttle to do. It moves back and forward. It's got a button on the side, and it's got a two-way button there as well. So you would basically hold it, move it forward, move it back. You can press that button with your thumb, and you can also press the other button there as well. It doesn't have too much resistance. It's actually fairly kind of smooth, just moving back and forth. You know, it's quite a small little throttle. Going on to the joystick part of it, which is on this side, you can see the joystick has full range of motion there. It's pretty good, and it also snaps back to center, so it is a self-centering joystick. You've got two buttons. You've got A and you've got B on the back there, right there. And you've also got an on and off switch here. Now, what I think, as far as I understand what this on and off switch does, is I think when it's off, the A button doesn't work. And say, like, if in the game you're firing like a torpedo or something, or a missile, you turn it on and then you can press this button. So it's sort of like, almost like those kind of covers they have. And that's what I believe it to be. The joystick is fairly comfortable to hold. Again, it's quite a small kind of joystick, so moving it around, it feels kind of small and compared to joysticks and like flight controllers you can get today. So, you know, it's quite a bit of a difference from today's ones, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. It feels pretty smooth. Moving on to the center here, you've got additional 3 buttons, huge buttons in the center. A, B, and C, and they're quite clicky. They're really easy to press, very responsive. But say now, when you're in the middle of a flight game and you've got a hand on the stick and a hand on the throttle, you don't want to have to keep coming in here and pressing these buttons all the time. So what do? Well, they added these extra commands to help you with that. So first off, you've got a reverse and normal button up the top here for A/B. So what that would do on normal, A is A, B is B. But if you turn it to reverse, it'll actually switch these buttons over. So A becomes B, and B becomes A. This will be good in case the game has a certain function you want closer to one stick or the other. Another cool function is you've got these hold buttons on both sides. So you've got A hold and you've got B here as well. So A hold basically means when you put on, it'll probably hold the A button down sort of thing, so it'll actually detect like you're actually pressing that constantly. So I'm assuming that'd be good if it's like the game's like firing something, or you know, it's doing something in the game in particular. And the same thing with the B, except the B command here has hold, auto, and manual selection. So again, I'm assuming hold is basically holding the button down. Auto would be like an auto fire function perhaps, and manual would be when you're actually pressing that manually. You've also got a mode button here, which is digital and analog, right there, to swap the course from digital and analog for the stick. You've also got a start and select button to accessing menus and stuff like that. And in the center here, one of the main features is A and B trigger speed. So these are your triggers here, like how fast you want to press them or anything like that. I'm assuming also A and B could also be used for the buttons, because obviously you can use, those are A and B and these are A and B as well. So I'm assuming they could be used for both. I don't actually have the system, so I can't actually test it out. But A and B, you can turn to min to max. And the good thing about these buttons, unlike these where they just slide across, these, when you push them up, they leave a bit of a trail behind, which actually looks really cool. It actually looks like you're actually pushing it up, like almost like a indicator, like some of the jets have the lights that light up. It sort of reminds me of that. It's pretty cool. So you can quite easily adjust your trigger speed and have it on order, so that when you're actually playing, a lot of the stuff does some of the work for you. So going down, of course, you have your logo. You have a Sharp Cyber Stick logo in the center there. But moving on now to the main feature of this joystick. And this is possibly the coolest feature that this joystick has. So say you're playing, you've got your hand on the throttle, other hand on the joystick, but you don't like this setup. You prefer to use your left hand for the joystick and your right hand for the throttle. So normally on most flight systems, if it's a two-piece system, you just swap them around. But obviously this is a solid base system, you can't do that. Or can you? How this works, because basically they come in modules here. So this is a module, and this is a module. You can actually take the module out and swap the stick and the throttle to where you want it to be. So what you notice behind here, you've got basically a little unlock and lock button on both sides. This unlocks or locks the module into place. So for instance, if we want to pull the throttle module out, we just need to slide the button to unlock. And these are pretty tough buttons, so you have to press fairly hard to actually get them to snap into place. And then you've got this dial around the actual throttle. You need to turn that to your left. Now turn a little bit away, and it will be a bit tight. And then all you do is pull this up a bit, and it'll pop out. And you'll notice you can see all the connections underneath. You've got a serial connection just there. And you can also see the mechanism. So if I move the throttle, you can see that mechanism there. And the serial port here would have been plugged basically into that port just there, into that area. So I'll put this aside for a sec. You can do the same thing with the other side. You just slide it to unlock. Now I find with mine, especially the joystick part of it here is way more tighter, and it requires a lot more to move this dial. So bear with me for a sec while I just try and get this done. There we go. And pull that out again. And again you can see the serial port where it's plugged in. And if I move this joystick around, you can see the mechanism in action. So now you'll notice in this port here, you've actually got two serial ports. The reason they do that is because, for instance, this throttle, when it's here, it's facing this way with the button out. But if you want on this side, you need to turn it this way. But by doing that, you're putting the serial port on the top side. So they fixed that by adding a serial port to the top, where that can then plug into. Now, I'm not going to actually plug them fully in, because it can be a bit of a pain to get it aligned perfectly the first time. So I'll just put it in there to show. So you place it into there, of course you clip it in, lock the dial, and press the lock button once you've done this. But for instance, once it's in, you can then use the throttle on the side with your right hand. You do the same with the joystick. Again, I won't be fully connecting it just yet. You put it in, of course, what you'll do when you're ready to go ahead with that, you'd put it in, you'd lock it into place, and then press that lock button. And of course, then you can use the joystick on this side, and then you can use the throttle on this side. So it makes it ideal for sort of a universal thing where you can swap back and forth. So I'm just going to swap it quickly back and put it back into the right place. And you'll hear noticeable clicks when you get it into the right place. So definitely don't force it, because those serial ports are pretty sensitive. So you don't really want to force it and break one of those serial ports or one of the pins that go into the ports. That probably wouldn't be too good on these ones. And you can see I've put this actual one the wrong way around. That's why it went in so easily. And you'll soon tell if you put it the wrong way around, because it won't work in the game or detect in the game or anything like that. So, because it has to plug into that serial port just there. Just there. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. So it has to align perfectly. If it doesn't align, then it's not going to work. Bear with me while I just put this back into place when it behaves itself. And this is the problem you have when it goes unaligned. Usually I try to get the sides, that little circle bit there. You can see how it changes. I usually try to get that to the end, because this little get groove here, and usually that works the best practice for aligning them. But sometimes you've got to move it just slightly just to find the right sort of angle. Move that a bit that way. And there we go. And again, turn the dial, press the lock button, and that'll lock it into place. So that's back the way it was and ready to go. So it's a pretty cool controller, and it's actually pretty rare. Very hard to find. I was lucky to find one. This one is the Japanese one. I'm not sure if they made one anywhere else in the world, or if it is just a Japan only thing. I'm not really sure, but I know it's fairly rare to find, and it is pretty an awesome little thing considering, you know, it's for a very old type of system. And it's really cool how they made that, be able to swap that. That's tells you that they kind of thought about it before they, you know, just slapped it together. But another interesting thing about this one is the fact that this is the Sharp Cyber Stick for the X68000, but a company called Micomsoft, I think that's how you pronounce their name, they actually released a version, and the model number is XE-1AJ, and that's basically another version. It looks absolutely identical to this, except down here it says the XE-1AJ model number, and it says on the back of it Micomsoft, and these keys here are orange. And another difference is that it's more compatible with different systems. The Micomsoft version is compatible with PC-98, FM Towns, and Sega Mega Drive and Genesis. So it's compatible with actually the Mega Drive Genesis sort of things, which is pretty awesome when you think about it. I can imagine quite a few games in the Mega Drive which I would love to play with a kind of two kind of HOTAS system, you could say, or a mission stick system on the Sega systems. That would be pretty cool. It'll be pretty cool for like shooters and stuff like that. Be pretty awesome. But the Microsoft version is apparently pretty rare, and I think it's even rarer than the Sharp version. So yeah, if I ever get a hold of one, I'll definitely do a video of it. But at the moment, I've just got the Sharp one, which it's a pretty awesome controller nonetheless. Take another look at it. It's pretty cool. But anyway guys, that's all I can say about this one. It's pretty rare, hard to find, awesome for collectors, especially if you like older controllers for old systems. And I don't know if I'll ever get a Sharp system, so it's probably just one of these controllers that I'll have in my collection that I probably won't actually get to play, unless of course I get the Microsoft version. But yeah, thanks for watching guys, I'm Sharkie Gamer. Don't forget to subscribe, I'll have heaps more controller and accessory videos up very soon. Leave a comment down below if you want to. Yeah, if you have any more information about it, feel free to leave a comment, let me know. Pretty much all I know is what I could find on the net, and what I could make out from the manual, which is pretty hard considering the manual's in Japanese. Anyway guys, thanks for watching.